Aha, that works better if I take the lens cap off. Okay, I think everything is good. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we released updates to both Festivity 2 and Deed Tracker. And today we're going to be returning to TitanBar. It's been a few weeks since we were last working in TitanBar, so we're going to start by reviewing just where we are, and then hopefully keep making progress with the new wallet system. And just as a reminder, that's a system that instead of having a fixed list of currencies that you can add to the TitanBar, we want to make it so you can add anything in your wallet, whether TitanBar knows what it is or not. So, as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. In the meantime, away we go. Okay. You know, we should be somewhere more interesting. And also, my graphics got turned down. Let's fix that. Okay, here we are in the capital of Western Gondor, Dol Amroth. So, frequent viewers of this stream will know that I like to look down upon the inhabitants of the city. Dara asks, was I Nazgul hunting? Well, I don't know if I can say that, but I can say that Affadil is Dawn of the South. So, take that as you will. Yeah, when they were doing a special stream event over on Mordor the other day, when they were tossing the two available Nazgul out for people to go hunting, I was fortunate enough to have some free time that day, so I was able to jump in with my level 50 over on Mordor and go ahead and be a part of both of those battles. Although one of the downsides of an event that populated, if you're one of the first people to get there, as I was in the South Barrow Downs, I don't know, I definitely wasn't the first person, but I was among the first 50. It means you're among the first 50 to get teleported away from battle as one of the defense mechanisms of the Nazgul. So it meant I wasn't necessarily there for the defeat of the Nazgul, but I was there during the battle, and that's what's important. And then so, let's see, Dawn of the South, that's from Event. So I definitely do have the other one, but I can't remember which one it is. Dawn of the South and Forsaken No More. It didn't defeat the Forsaken River. But we're in Gondor right now, which is in the south part of the map, so I figured Dawn of the South was a nice celebration of that. So one of the things we did for D-Tracker as part of that release that went out was including Veil of the Nine related deeds. And of course, there's the 9 deeds for taking part in the defeat of each individual Nazgul, although only 2 of them are currently available, I hear. And they're going to be releasing over time. There's the meta deed for completing all of those. And then there's the 5 reputation deeds with the new reputation faction in Estelden who accepts tattered cloaks and whatnot. And I can't remember the name of that. Anyway, so yeah, I think there's 5 deeds for that. So overall, there's about 15 deeds that are just Veil of the Nine specific. And right now, that's only on Angmar and Mordor. If you are using the updated deed tracker, and in fact, let's go ahead and show what that would look like. Dara thinks they might add 1 more for each level cap increase as a draw to keep people playing. That's entirely possible. I don't know if they're timing it specifically for releases or if they're just doing that while they're doing other things, and so it might naturally flow into that. So deed tracker, let's go ahead and pull that down, version 3.15. Slog in chat says, you're level 100, not more. I am playing on the... Oh, we're done. I'm playing on Treebeard, which is a legendary server whose level cap is currently 100. So Affadil is max level for this server. Right now, Angmar and Mordor have a level cap of 50, Treebeard is 100, and all of the non-legendary servers have a level cap of 150. So Affadil is as far as we can go right now. Right now, Treebeard is has the content through Western, Central, and Eastern Gondor, including South Ithilien and Old Anorian? Yeah, Old Anorian, but not Far Anorian, so we can't go help the Riders of Rohan through the forest yet. Osgiliath as well. There is not on their regular computer and account. Your computer is broken. It's hard to repair. I'm sorry to hear that. I've been very happy that the computers that we built a few years ago, I feel like it's been a few years at this point, have been really just solid workhorses. And other than vacuuming them out occasionally to remove the dust buildup, it's been very hands-off, and that's been a very nice feeling. A friend of ours who knows much more about computer hardware than I do helped us spec out the parts. And then I put them together because nowadays putting together a computer is very much like Legos or other snap-together toys. And I feel confident in that level. But knowing which parts to buy, It's not my fort. Okay, fantastic. So here we are in Dol Amroth, and if we wanted to look at the plugin that we just installed, remember that Lord of the Rings Online does not keep abreast of any changes to your plugins directory. So you need to hit this little green arrow to show any new items. Here's dtracker, and here is dtracker loaded. In the options, there is the first two things are opting in. Actually, the first couple things are opting in for is this a legendary server or not, and if it is, that will cause certain legendary server deeds to be available in dtracker. And is this a Veil of the Nine server? Veil of the Nine is available on this server. If we go ahead and go over to Class Race Epic and go down to Reputation, scrolling on down to the end here, oh, Amelia's Studies didn't get marked as part of the Veil of the Nine. That's disappointing. Amelia's Studies is the name of that that we were talking about. I'm going to make a note of that right here, off in another screen. dtracker. Oh, and I have this note for TitanBar that I'm going to actually pull in. So let's go ahead and pull that up real fast. We're going to go ahead and paste that note of an error with TitanBar. dtracker Amelia's Studies, I think it was. Yep. Category isn't marked with Veil of the Nine. Okay. So I've got that off on a different screen. I'll deal with that later because today is not a dtracker day except in this overview. So we have dtracker here, and Amelia's Studies has acquaintance, friend, ally, kindred, and respected that you can go through, and those don't show up unless you have Veil of the Nine on. And down below, we have the defeat each of the 9, and then the defeat the X, Grim Southern, Forsaken Reaver, and so on. And these are also should not show up if you do not have the Veil of the Nine checked in dtracker. Oh no! Dara says, mine stopped working and is now on a blue screen of death. BIOS hardware check says hardware is okay, even hard drive, so I suspect Windows being totally messed up. Even protected mode is not running. Oof. Yeah, well, there's definitely ways to recover from that, but they either take lots of time, or some money, or both. So I wish you luck with that. Some people I know will run a 2-drive system where their operating system is on one of the hard drives, and they try to put everything else on the other hard drive. And that gives them a certain sense of security that if something goes wrong with the operating system, they can reinstall the operating system to the point of blowing away everything on that hard drive if they have to. Just reformatting it, repartitioning, and all of that, reinstall the operating system, but because everything else is on a separate drive, they feel a level of comfort with that operation. Like, you can do repairs and reinstalls of operating systems, should the computer cooperate, without potentially any data loss. But it's certainly a nice secure feeling if you can just remove the drive with all the important things on it before you start doing this operation, and then definitionally it's all safe from whatever's happening with the operating system. I have not done that. I do have an external drive for storing large files. That's just because it's still a spinner drive, reasonably high quality, I hope. But I store all the large files over there just because they take up so much space on my SSD. Yeah, I'm going to be sad when the day comes and one of our 2 computers stops working right. Okay. Dara says that you have backed up the user data. The only other program I have on the system SSD is LOTRO. Oh, okay. So you are reasonably safe from things happening. Zenny says, dtracker, this is what I need for my current completionist run. Fantastic. Well, if you do not already know about it, there is a way to import your deed progress so that you do not need to manually check off all of the deeds you've already completed. For instance, if I go to Eriador here, dtracker, freshly installed in my system, thinks I have completed 0 out of the 497 deeds in Eriador. I don't think that's true. But if we come on in and open up the LOTRO Companion desktop application, and we do an import, it goes and grovels through LOTRO and figures out what's what, and then we're all done there. And then we want to go into the Documents, Lord of the Rings Online folder, Plugins, Q Plugins, Deed Tracker, and there's a file called Import Deed Completion from LOTRO Companion. We go ahead and run that, and we say import Treebeard Affodil, and we're done. And the next time Deed Tracker loads up, it's going to look at that information. That's strange. It's going to look at that information and say, hey, there's 1,686 deeds that you've completed that Deed Tracker doesn't know about that. Would you like to mark those as complete? Yes, I would. Thank you. And now we can see that of the 497 deeds, I have completed 474 of them. Hooray! So that's a way to avoid having to check off all these deeds yourself. Now, if you enjoy checking things off, don't let me stop you. But I inflicted that on a couple of my beta testers early in this process before there was an import, like you had to manually sync it up, and they tolerated that once, but it was asking a lot. So it's nice that that's not a mandatory thing anymore. It's optional. Southern Mirkwood. Hide everything completed. Oh, roving threats, of course. Of course. So our Slowtro group over on Treebeard is working our way through the Gondor content that's currently available. And so we can see Western Gondor is partially complete. Definitely need to work on our Slayer deeds. Central Gondor is actually doing pretty well, probably because we don't have Tarling's crown to work on. Oh, Dalamarth itself, yeah. And then we are just about to get into Eastern Gondor, and then we'll be able to also do Old Anorian, and then it stops because Far Anorian is part of and March of the King in the Waste. That's in the release that's coming in December. So Old Anorian, Minas Tirith, Quest of Pelennor and Talathanor. I'm not sure we can do Pelennor and Talathanor yet. Interesting. I did have to kind of guess on that because the wiki's doesn't have a lot of detail about what comes in each release. So we'll see. Okay, so that's Deed Tracker. Dara asks what you should, how to make imports into LOTRO Companion have the best chance of succeeding. Yeah, I recommend just standing still in a nice quiet place. Don't try to do it during combat or anything. If you want to import them and you haven't opened them recently, open up your shared storage, open up your personal storage, and open up your wardrobe to refresh those contents. Those get dumped from memory eventually if you have them closed long enough. Just be in a nice, calm situation, and then run the import. And then, for me, that works 99% of the time. I do not try doing it while I'm running around or actively doing things because I don't know what mechanism LOTRO Companion is doing to kind of poke around and look at the status of the game, but I can only imagine a more active game client makes that a more challenging task. So I don't do that. But yeah, when I'm doing an import, I just sit, I wait, I do it, it's done, works every time. Assuming there hasn't been a game client update that changes memory in a way that breaks the import process in general. Like if the import's going to work, it always does work under those situations for me. Your mileage may vary though. That's just been my experience. Cool. So that is Veil of the Nine on Deed Tracker, but we're not looking at that today. Dara says, so you'd guess the data is directly read from memory, not copied. I would guess. I think... I don't know how much memory that LOTRO needs to kind of scan through. Sorry, LOTRO Companion needs to scan through to gather information about your character. but I'd assume that it's just as fast to copy it, to read it as to copy it, and then you're just done. Um, I don't think the intent of LOTRO Companion is to do active imports in the middle of like a raid or something. So if you're finding it's not working while your character is doing active things in the world, yeah, that might be outside of the scope of what they're trying to do. Some of your imports are failing, and you're thinking about why. Yeah, I don't have any better ideas than that. Most of the time when I'm doing an import, I'm just standing around in our kinship housing neighborhood on the Shire Homesteads, and I've just logged in. I open up those windows if I want to import storage and wardrobe. I do the import. Works every time. And usually while I'm doing the import, I'm not doing anything in game. I'm just because for me the import runs in less than 15 seconds generally, and I can appreciate if your character has more data, maybe the import takes a little bit longer to complete. But I think it's worthwhile just to let the import do its thing, hands off on the game. And if you see failures in that situation where you've just logged in, you're not in combat, you're just standing around a housing neighborhood, and it's still failing for you, then it's definitely worth maybe jumping into the LOTRO Companion Discord and getting ideas and help from other people for what's going on here, because that doesn't feel like a normal situation to me. That's certainly not my experience. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and blow away that because I'm going to bring mine later. Okay, so TitanBar. So what's going on with TitanBar? Perhaps you're putting something from inventory to shared storage. Yeah, maybe. There's some, I don't want to say dark magic, but there's some definitely some low-level stuff going on, or lower-level stuff than I tend to think about when I'm doing plugins for LOTRO Companion to successfully poke at the information that it's looking for. So, and there's a certain fragility to that. That's why LOTRO Companion has to do an update whenever a client update changes things just enough. Then he has to go and fix how that memory traversal works. Oh, that's fair. You're normally on the Discord, currently on the potato. That is fair. I actually have Discord installed on my phone. For a while, I did not, but it's useful enough that I have it on my phone for the occasional reaching out to people. Well, if we've learned anything from Portal 2, you don't want to make your potato think too hard. Okay. So, TitanBar. TitanBar currently has the ability to display currency counts on the bar. And we can see that happening right now. This is just a review for anyone who has forgotten what TitanBar does. For whoever was in chat before, if you're still around who uses a plugin for the time, one of the things that TitanBar has is the time control. And one of the things I desperately love, being not in the Eastern time zone of the United States, is to both show 24-hour time and show the server time at -6, I think, and show real end server. Cool. So, it is currently 20:06 here in the Netherlands, which means server time it is 14:06 or 2 p.m. if you don't like 24-hour time. And with a glance, I can, and this is where I always have it parked in the upper right hand of the screen. I can look at the upper right hand of the screen, and at a glance, I can see what time it is locally. I can see what time it is in for the server time as well. And sometimes that is useful. For instance, quest resets happen at 3 a.m. server time, which is 9 a.m. here. But I don't have to do that mental conversion. I can just look up there and say, is it before or after 3 a.m.? So if I log in at 8 a.m. here, which I've done occasionally, I've gotten up, I've logged in, and it's like, why can't I do the thing? Right. Haven't done the quest reset yet. Dara says, do you know what TitanBar should have? An automatic server time detection. That's a good question. Can we do /time and /server time? Yes, that is something that TitanBar could have implemented. It is not implemented right now. Although last time I was on checking on Mordor, and possibly Amar, I don't remember if I checked there, but Mordor had a server time set in California, I want to say, which definitely had the feeling like they had left the default time zone on that machine. And had forgotten to tweak it to be the Eastern time zone, because a lot of times I know I was just installing a Mac OS machine, and it's like, you're in California, right? I'm like, nope, not in California. And then maybe that's the same for their Windows. Agatha says TitanBar has a configurable timer seed. Yeah, so I don't really, I haven't dug into the TitanBar configuration, but the fact that there's not a button here to say detect server time, I feel like that could be an improvement. Just like when reminders comes up, it says, what server are you on, or press this button to auto detect. That would be a nice addition here, but we'll come back to that some other time. Okay, so yes, for anyone who uses a plugin for time, don't let me change your process if what you have works for you, but be aware TitanBar, you could turn off every other control and just have the time up here, and that could be a functional thing. Probably overkill given everything TitanBar brings to the table to just have it for a clock, but since I use it for other things, it's no problem. Okay, we're going to go ahead and turn time off, though, because that's not what we're doing today. All right, no more time. Okay, what is going on here? Commendations, right. Okay, so where were we? TitanBar. We're currently with this old wallet system, and one thing I'd like to do is remind ourselves what we're aiming for. So I'm actually going to come into plugin data and kill that save file that we were just working with and go into fork, which is our source control, and go way back to where we had, oh, interesting. A branch here for this. Oh, no. Is that a problem? Well, that's not what I meant to do. Fascinating. I forgot to stash some of my local changes, and now I have to deal with merge conflicts. And do I care about that? Yeah. I do not want that for right now. We're gonna undo that. Dare we ask what all changed? So much. Well, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So, let's stash these. And then do the thing that I was trying to do. Okay. Let's come on into TitanBar. There says, if they remember correctly, Reminder has that automatic detect, presumably for the time. That's a good point. We could take a look at that. Okay, so let's take a look at this wallet. So what we're going for is a wallet window that matches our wallet. The goal being that if we do a search for, say, token, in both of these windows, we are going to see the same things. And roughly speaking, I'd say that's correct. This layout is still the old system, the old TitanBar layout, though. And what we can see is that if you separate out the number from the icon, you start being able to say support larger numbers, like the universal ingredient packs that I have. Ingredient, which I have 31,009. Someday I'll have enough of those, but that's just too many characters for the number on top of them. And you know, at a certain point, maybe 5 digits is okay, or 4.5 here. But separating them out also gives us the option of showing the maximum if there is a maximum, where we're missing that right now. And that's something I believe we can get from the wallet item is TitanBar tokens of exchange. I've got 294 out of 999. That'd be great to be able to show the 999. So we're not bound to this current display. This current display is just how TitanBar was doing it, or as few changes as we could get to TitanBar doing this. Do asks, is that wallet plugin just making the TGA bigger to view compared to the small TGA picture on the original one? What a great question. So LOTRO has embedded images in its resource files, and there are actually 2 different ones. There's a miniature version, which I think is 16 by 16, over here in the wallet. And then there's the full-sized, the 32 by 32. And actually, you've got me curious now. We're gonna go ahead and copy that into, you know, just MS Paint probably. Cool. So we can see that is really. Well, that's a 30 by 30 image. Interesting. I would have thought it was 32 by 32. And then this one over here, yeah, looks like about 16 by 16. So those are just 2 different resources in LOTRO. And so it would be possible in fact, if you ask for the image ID from a wallet item, you get the wallet's version of the image ID, I believe. So this isn't an upscaled version of that icon, which looks pretty fuzzy given that you're only working with 16 by 16 pixels to begin with. This is actually just a larger version. But if you take a look when you tear off a tooltip for one of these wallet icons, you can see that the full version is used in other situations. If you're hovering over the item in a barter window, for instance, you're going to see the full-size version of it in a tooltip. So it has to be in there somewhere. So hopefully that answers the question, too. Thanks for asking. It's a good one. 2 different images. But I do like the larger image. I could see going for the smaller one just for saving space. I could even see that using that as like a checkbox option. But this was just a proof of concept of what it would look like to have a TitanBar wallet that showed you all of the things in the actual wallet. Then said, can we replace the image with another one more upscaled / resolution? If you're asking about can the plugin do that, the TitanBar could have alternate versions of icons, or could reference alternate versions of icons if they were available, if someone wrote the code to do that. Currently, no such code exists, but it's not impossible to say, hey, here's a list of images where we have made them different in some way, kind of like skinning. But the plugin can't alter the images that LOTRO is currently using, and LOTRO's images that it's using for the wallet or that we're getting for TitanBar's wallet window, those are just embedded in the game client data. So the way it currently stands, we're just asking LOTRO, hey, please give me image ID 72, and LOTRO says, here you go, here are the pixels to draw on the screen, and we pass that off to the thing that is drawing the background, or the image. So the plugin isn't providing that image, it just knows that anniversary token's image ID is whatever, 73. It's a much longer number than that. It knows the bad fish is image number 74. It says, LOTRO, please put that image here. And then it's whatever LOTRO provides. But I do know that the people at Standing Stone Games do understand the desire for things like 4K support, because some of them have 4K monitors, and they know what the situation is for people who have higher resolution monitors and are looking at a game client that currently doesn't really natively scale up to that level. And I know it's kind of disappointing to have a 4K monitor and play the game in 1K. It's, you're not taking full advantage of the awesome equipment that you have. So they have said that they're working on a solution for that they're working to make the game look better under a 4K scenario. So they have not announced a timeline, to my knowledge, of when that's happening, but they have announced that that's something that they're putting resources into. Let's see. Do says, I'm modding games, and I notice if I add a 4K picture to an icon, the engine makes it low quality to what the engine can handle, but I guess if I had the source code of the old game, I could do whatever I want and change it. Possibly. I tend to think that most video games have some bespoke code. Like there's a lot of them will use some sort of engine that might exist somewhere else as well, like the Unreal Engine or whatnot. But it feels like there's enough. Okay, we have to take this and modify it to suit our purposes going on. That, yeah, if you want to understand how a game is working and you have access to the source code, that's probably the authoritative way to understand how the game works. Do ask, is hard-coded just a word for people who don't have the source code to change compared to the original source code creators? Hard-coded, and the way that I'm using it, is a way to reference something that is inflexible to change. So, for instance, in the game, there are some things that can be changed by, say, skinning it. How does this window look? What color is the thing up here? Is the background blue? What do buttons look like? Does the button have a blue background? These are all things that can be easily changed by changing your skin. I don't know if I have any skins installed, but if I do, I would expect them to show up under the UI settings. And then current user skin, none. So if I change to Delving Hills. Goodness. It's possible I haven't updated my skins in a long time. I should probably do something about that. Okay, well, bad example then. But a skin can easily change some of these things because LOTRO understands how the skin definitional files work. The skins can say, instead of making this thing blue, please make it green. So in that sense, the color, in my mind, in the words I'm using, the color of this title box, the color of these buttons, the color of the buttons when you hover over them, these are not hard-coded. They're not locked in to a specific value. They are flexible, and they are changeable within the certain parameters with how you write these UI skins. Whereas it's possible that the images that are being shown here are hard-coded. That is, there's nothing you can do as a skin writer to change the fact that that icon is always going to be 16 by 16. Maybe. I'm not a UI skinner. I couldn't say for certain, but assuming that is true, then that element is hard-coded. There's no way to easily change it outside of going in and manipulating the source code, recompiling it, or going in and changing bits in your data files. So that's how I tend to use those words of hard-coded versus soft-coded, especially with regards to the client itself. Daum says, what about ultra-wide? I run 3440 by 1440. I don't know what the specific plans are at SSG. I know they've specifically referenced 4K because that's a popular configuration. But 4K is both wider and taller than the ultra-wide that you have referenced. So I would assume that if something looked pretty good on 4K, that would also look good on the resolution that you've posted there, the 3440 by 1440. Don't actually remember. Let's see, 1920. Okay, so 4K would be 7680 wide by 1080 by 4320, assuming I understand resolutions as well as I hope I do. So if you have 4K support, that'd be 7680 by 4320. So yeah, if it looks at all good under those resolution constraints, the ultra wide that you're talking about, I would expect would be compatible with that. But I don't really know what their plans are. They've just have said that they understand there's a community desire for these higher resolutions, and there's an internal desire at SSG to make that happen. I think we'll know more as they have better results to talk about. Just asking if I worked for SSG and had access to everything, and could edit and change anything there. What might be hard-coded for plugin creators isn't hard-coded for me because I'd have access to the source code. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yes, if you were a person who was modifying the code that was becoming the client, then you would have the potential to say, hey, let's have a checkbox to show the 16 by 16 image or the 32 by 32 image. Like, that's a thing that could be done, because at that point, the limitations are not, does the API let me do this? The limitation is, does the code easily support what I'm trying to do, in the sense that if I think it's going to take 20 hours to make this code change, does my boss think that's a good use of my time? Daum says my ratio is 21 to 9. Yeah, that's bigger than the 16 to 9. Does that... I tend to go towards the 2-monitor setup because I really like having in the ever since I think Windows 7, there's been some easy keyboard shortcuts to anchor things to window borders. And I really like having a left, a left middle, a right middle, and a right place to tile windows, so I can get 4 vertical windows of reasonable sizes. And I've been eyeing larger monitors that have kind of the equivalent desktop real estate but wouldn't have those anchor points, as would this break my workflow in a way that I wouldn't like. For instance, right now, I'm streaming, and you are actually seeing what's on one of my monitors. This is just mirroring my desktop, and so whenever I change one of these windows, you're seeing what's on that monitor. But I have a whole other monitor that I am not streaming with that has things like the chat window, has my streaming software, and I find that really useful to have 2 discrete monitors on which to place things. But I'm curious how you find it having just a single, much bigger monitor. Okay. Well, anyone who wants to is answering that. So we've seen what this tree view is. This is sort of the goal that we're working for. We've refreshed our memory. Let's go back to the current branch of code and see what is going on. So we're going to come on over here. We're going to go ahead and apply that stash. We're going to go ahead and load TitanBar and see if it breaks from a save file that is not good. Okay, that save file was fine. Let's go ahead and restore our old save file. Okay, so this is where we are, and this is the current window that everyone has access to. It's a fixed list of items in kind of chronological order as to when it was added. Like, there's no real meaningful order here. And really, the way TitanBar does this, it would be very difficult to have a meaningful order that made sense in all three languages. Like, are you going to do alphabetical? In which case you have to have per language ordering of these things. So it's really just kind of in order of being added, I guess. I'm not sure. Okay. So let's go into our source code and take a look at our to-do file and see what's going on. Okay, and one of the things I want to take a look at is we have an error message reported by, I think Little Redhead actually sent this to me. And we're going to come on into our functions.lua, and this is line 393. And see what's going on here. Bad argument to format number expected got nil. Oh, it might have been me, actually. Because that makes more sense if it came to me. No, key not nil. Okay, I'm uncertain. We're gonna report it by Leonard. We'll have to look at that when we're looking at a version of code that she would have access to. Okay, Dome says, I still have a side monitor. It's really on the side. I have to turn my head, but useful when I game full screen on my ultrawide for guides and streams. Okay. Okay, Dome says, ultrawide in games is amazing when supported well. Most games do support it though. Okay. That's neat. I have a coworker who has a super large resolution monitor, and whenever he does a screen sharing during one of our work meetings, he has to go in and change the resolution, or everything is super tiny, and we can't read anything. Dude says, I'm modding an old game from 2006, and the icons are old and hard to see. I tried to enhance the pictures, and it made it more clear and updated, and it looks great in the old game. So a plugin can supply its own images, which is the question that you're asking. For instance, does TitanBar have one of those? Let's go ahead and go into the LOTRO Plugin Compendium, and we're just going to add in Festival Buddy. Festival Buddy. Cool. So that's installed, refresh with the green arrow, and load Festival Buddy. So Festival Buddy, each festival in here has its own image, and this comes from an image file that is supplied with the plugin. So this is the spring image, heavily featuring the shrews, coming into Farmer's Fair, which just ended. It features the table that the mayor is feasting at in Hobbiton Bywater. These are arbitrary image files. They're stored in a TGA format. If I recall correctly, LOTRO can also load something else, JPEG maybe. But TGA is kind of the default format. And so it's just an arbitrary image, and we just say, please load the image and put it here, and we give a path to that image file. So your question about can a plugin supply images, plugin can supply whatever images it wants and use them however it wants. The only real restriction is, do you have so many images that LOTRO interface says, no, your plugin is too large. It takes up too much space and too much bandwidth. But yes, it would be possible for a plugin to include a custom image for currencies. If you look at more maps, it might have custom map files for each of the regions. Or you might supply custom map files. Someone was in chat a week or two ago, and they were wanting to hand draw maps and use those in place of the in-game maps, which this sounds like a fantastic idea. And I pointed them towards MoreMap because you can just supply a map file and update MoreMap to point to that, and MoreMap will happily show you that in place of the original map. For it to be fully functional, you do need to make sure that the bounds are the same so that the XY coordinate system works. But beyond that, yeah, you can color it up or draw it up arbitrarily, and it will still function. And so yes, a plugin can provide its own images, but there are, just looking at the screen, there are possibly dozens of currencies in the game. And so for a plugin to supply all of its own versions of those images is potentially doable, but it sounds like a fair amount of work. Do ask with response to an AI enhancer program. So a plugin can't affect the images that are in the game outside of a plugin. So for instance, the wallet is using image files that a plugin doesn't have any access to. Just like all of these skill icons down here, a plugin can't provide alternate images. Can't provide alternate images for these icons that are on your skill bars. So regardless of the question of AI and all of those problems, a plugin wouldn't be able to use any custom images outside of the plugin environment. So if you're wondering, is it allowed to use AI to make custom images that you put into your plugin? I don't know that the terms of service were written with that in mind. I think there's a conversation to be had about how the AI model was trained and whose intellectual property, if any, was stolen for that training method. But regardless of that, I don't know that LOTRO Interface or LOTRO have any sort of items in their terms of service about AI generated anything. Rabin says, hello, I came back to playing LOTRO since the launch, and I have physical copies of Lord of the Rings Online, right as Rohan, Mines of Moria. That's fantastic. Feels good to be back. You even got VIP. Well, welcome back. That's fantastic that you still have those physical artifacts of a game that has long since gone digital in its releases. I once upon a time had the original Shadows of Angmar box for LOTRO, but I'm sure I long ago lost it. What's fun is if you look at the modern keyboard guide of what are the default keyboard shortcuts, I don't think it's actually changed since pretty early in the release cycle of Shadows of Angmar. It definitely gives me some nostalgia when I look at it. Cool. Well, welcome. We're talking about plugins today. Feel free to jump into chat with any questions that are plugin or not plugin related. Totally fine. Du asks, okay, thank you. I was just curious if a plugin person could update the UI interface a bit with new TGA files. So there's kind of two sides to modifying Lord of the Rings Online. There's plugins, which are the miniature programs that can run and do all sorts of different things. And then there's the UI skinning, which can affect the look and feel of things like windows in the game. And I find the UI skinning side of things a bit of a mystery. I know a little bit about what they can do, but I definitely don't know much. And if there's any ability for them to change icons or change things like that, I don't know what it is. So I couldn't tell you the limits of what a skin could do, but I can tell you that plugins can only affect the visual look of plugins. Raven says, can't remember, was there a playtime subscription or is my mind playing tricks on me? It's been a while since I've looked at the subscriptions, but I believe at the moment they come in the form of 1 month, 3 month, and 12-month subscriptions. Or maybe purchases might be a better way of, with a checkbox for automatic renewal. So, at the launch, like, wow. Nope, I've completely forgotten. Now, during LOTRO did not launch as a free-to-play game. It launched as a subscription game. So there was definitely, just like World of Warcraft, there was a cost to having a monthly account. It was... I don't remember exactly, but it was years later when they transitioned to a free-to-play model with purchases. Bims says, "Yep, I paid the $1.99 for the lifetime account, and I've never paid anything since 2007. Not even for in-game Lotro or Mithril." Which you feel kind of bad about. Never feel bad about that. The whole point of having lifetime accounts or founders accounts or whatever your service describes is to generate an influx of cash in the short term to solve whatever problem obviously whatever problem they were attempting to solve worked because they're still here. I don't know how they feel about it. For anyone who doesn't know, I don't work for SSG. I have no insider knowledge. All I can do is guess how things work based off of the evidence we have before us. And Standing Stone Games is still here. LOTRO is still here. So something's working. Okay. Fantastic. Well, welcome back, Ryben. We're going to switch back to code, I think. Well, let's see. D says, it's not a box question. I still have my CD-ROM on my computer for CDs, but no CDs work. I read Windows discontinued CD programs in their Windows 10 and above. Do you know any programs or softwares I can install to get old CD games working again? I do not have an experience with what you're describing. Admittedly, it's been a while since I've tried to do anything with the CD other than ripping music. But I don't know of any mechanism that would result in what you're talking about, except... I always turn this off, but Windows has an ability to kind of restrict your installation of software to things that are released through the Windows Store, the Microsoft Store, where you can download kind of certified, this is probably not malware applications. And if you're in that mode, then Windows is going to strongly recommend against or even prevent you from installing programs from outside of that ecosystem. And that feels like a very safe default for people who maybe aren't technically savvy or you just don't want them to download some random program from the internet and run it because that's just a terrible way to do things. But I would assume, that you have already, ensured that you're not opting into a Microsoft Store only ecosystem at this point. But that's the only thing that comes to mind is you can definitely try to install something that Windows is like, this isn't, this is from somewhere outside of the store. Are you sure you want to do that? And then you have to click through, yes, I'm sure I want to do this. And I don't know how that would affect CDs in this day and age. But it is true, I haven't actually tried to install a program from a CD in quite a while. When we moved from the United States to the Netherlands, I had to make a choice of what of my old, software CDs did I really want to move with. And the answer was not very many of them, although there's probably a box up in our attic somewhere with some of them. I guess I should try to do that someday. Bim says you're doing hero's work here. Really appreciate you. Well, thank you very much. It's very kind words. Okay. Where were we? Image ID is not unique for wallet items. We noticed this problem, and this is what I believe we were in the middle of, was dealing with the fact that we were using image IDs and we wanted to change to using item IDs. So I'm wondering if we can review where that was. Okay, these were not changed meaningfully. These are new, okay? Wallet items. Let's take a look and see how our auto-generated file is different. We got rid of the item ID hex field. We're just using that entry. Everything else looks the same. Hello, little one. She's not paying you any attention. Would you like to be picked up and cuddled? I know you don't. You are not a cuddly cat. Hey. Okay. Okay, so this is just being updated a little bit. That looks fine. Wallet control factory. What's up with this? We're saying get, calling a function called get currency icon. I'd like to know more. Okay, so this is where we're getting this question mark over a shield icon as a default. So we start with that. If we have interesting, we are getting the image ID maybe from the wallet. Okay, icon ID equals the player currency's get image, and that's just a currency item, I think, a wallet item. Otherwise, for Destiny points, we replace it with something different because Destiny points was broken in some way. I am curious why we felt the need to do that. Let's see what Destiny points is without that. Oh. Yeah, that's terrible. Oh, right. Because Destiny points don't exist in wallet. Can't look it up. Let's go ahead and actually document what's going on. Okay, so if it's in our wallet, we can use the image. If it's not in our wallet, then for right now, we have an answer for Destiny. Otherwise, we don't have an answer. We'll be able to expand on that in the future. Awesome. Let's go ahead and reload TitanBar. Cool. And there's our Destiny value. Awesome. Okay, so that's the get currency. So we're getting an icon ID from here. We're setting the background to that. And then we were attempting to play around with a thing, I think. That doesn't look like it's currently in use. Why were we doing that? I think I was playing around with something else. Okay, so we're going to remove that. I'm trying to get to the point where we can just commit this so we have a clean working directory. All right, wallet names to ID. So this is our lookup that says, hey, if you have something called Rift Iron Coin, this is the the item ID that we're going to use as the way to store it, the way to reference it. So we can do that lookup. All right, in our FRM main, we are saying that this player currency is no longer indexed by image ID, but by currency key. Awesome. What's going on here? Replacing number with string or number. Sure. Wallet and get image were... Oh yes, we're replacing that with the get currency key. Great. And I'm just curious, do we feel like we've gotten all of those get images? Great. It does feel like we got them all. All right. What is going on in functions? My goodness. Output count. This was all sorts of debug output, wasn't it? Okay, get currency key from wallet item. We get the name. We get the wallet items there. We return the result. Okay. My goodness, there's a lot of other stuff there. I'm not entirely sure I want to delete it yet because I don't remember why it's there. Okay. Handle currencies. We got rid of the type of the value equals number, and the rest of this is just outdenting. Okay. Get currency key instead of get image. Replacing the key with the numerical version of itself. Cool. Hi, little one. And get the icon for currency. This is the get currency icon that we were just looking at. Okay, all those look great. Main, moving some imports around because these need to be available earlier. And settings. Let's take a look at this. Okay, this was replacing the image ID with the item ID. And this update, currency is not indexed with the item ID where possible instead of the human readable key. Fantastic. Destiny points is the only one that isn't. And right away, I'm seeing a place where we can be better. Let's come on back to our settings. And we can see, in fact, let's do a search for this hex value. Because we only want that to exist in one place. So if key equals destiny points, and then, oh, this is a lookup table, and we do want that to be future change proof. So we're going to leave that there as well. But here we have something called destiny points, and we'll go ahead and reference that directly in at least one place. Okay. At least it's not being used in a bunch of different places. And then, let's see, old key to new key. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove this debug statement here. And then to do handle currencies and settings that are not currently in there. Okay, we're going to leave that for right now. Fantastic. Okay, I feel like we have refreshed our memory a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and come on in here and start committing things. Okay, we want most of this. Stage, 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 or stage. Okay, so local name equals that, local result equals that, return result, that looks good. So we have function, local name equals that, local result, return result. The rest of this, I don't want to commit and probably want to delete. Okay, here, all of that was good, that was good, all of that seems good for now. Switched from image ID to item ID where possible. Great, let's go ahead and commit that. Now we have a reasonably clean working directory. So, to do, image ID is not unique for all items. Done. It probably makes most sense to transition to item ID. Done. Destiny isn't a paper item. Need to add it manually. Cool. Done-ish. Also, LOTRO points. What a great question. Oh, LOTRO points is being handled separately for right now. That's a good question. How is it being done? Let's make a note here. New wallet window needs to show LOTRO points. Does it? If not, need to make it happen. Okay. Oh, forgot to actually save that change. Got rid of magic number. So I think it was Du who was asking about hard-coded, or the how I use the word hard-coded. This is a place where I would talk about hard-coding a value. We have explicitly said that this key must equal 0x4100A682, or the decimal version of that hex number. And this is what you'll commonly hear called a magic number, which is to say, there's a number here, and it means something, but what it means is, we don't know, it's magic. And what we really mean to say is if the key equals whatever destiny points is. And that is a helpful distinction to make, because if we come in here, let's search for that destiny points, just that. This value right here, if this value changes, we want this check to automatically work. And if it's hard-coded, we have a value here that's being used and a number here that's being used. That hard-coded number makes the software less flexible because you have to remember to change the value in two places, and if you don't, it breaks. And so hard-coded values like that make it harder to maintain and change the software. Whereas now, we're saying if this key equals whatever this equals, and so if we change this to be 3, it just works. It makes the system more maintainable. So there is still a hard-coded value here, a value that it is. But if everything that thinks that that value means something refers to the variable instead, then it is trivial to come in and change that to something else later. So that's a way that we can talk about things being hard-coded in our own plugin code. Which is why I'm making a change to not hard-code the value, but just say whatever it is that we're looking for a destiny points. If it's that, then do something. Okay. Current broken state. Wallet tooltip. Didn't say when state. Start by observing the deed and the entries were open on the wallet. Are they correct? What a fascinating question. What are we... Oh, that one. Okay, yes, the tooltip for the wallet. So we go ahead and say money is going to be in the tooltip. We can see it does go to the tooltip. If we go ahead and unload and bring back in, it's still in tooltip. Awesome. Let's go ahead and also move destiny points in there. Okay, it's no longer on the bar. It's here. Unload. It's entirely possible that we have fixed the problem, but it's good to review and make sure that we fixed it. Destiny is still not there. It is here. All right, let's reverse this. Oops. Let's go ahead and move money onto the TitanBar. Aha! Crashed. Not crashed, but definitely produced an error. Okay, wallet controls. Observation. Added money to tooltip. Okay. Added destiny to tooltip. Okay. then removed money from tooltip. Got error. Okay, which is that and this. Great. Okay. So, money Lua 5 table index is no. Developer Maximus asks, when is underwater combat coming to LOTRO? The good news is it's happening all the time, all around you. The bad news is we can't participate in it. No, that's a bit of a flippant answer. To my knowledge, there is no plan for LOTRO to incorporate underwater swimming mechanics. I don't know if this is a technical thing or if this is a reflection of some of the realities of how difficult it is to fight underwater for people. Obviously, a minstrel would have problems screaming at a minstrel's enemies with all the water and not air. Ryben says, I think it's both. Yeah, there's... I've been playing a different game a lot called Valheim, which has lots of combat in it. But water, nope. You tread water, your stamina goes down super fast, and then you just start drowning. And if some loot falls in the water, you better hope you can drop with enough force to get low enough in the water before you bob back up like a cork. Bim says, love Valheim, playing it now. Yeah, so if you fight a serpent, and you defeat a serpent, and the serpent is too far from shore, you better hope you were next to the serpent and catching any of the loot before it just falls down, because there's no way you're getting it. There's no underwater. So, yeah. I know of, I do not think SSG has announced any plans to add underwater swimming, so I would not hold out hope for that. And part of that might just be there's no lore to draw on. There's nothing in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit to justify underwater swimming fighting mechanics that I can think of. Did he even go swimming? Maybe Tolkien didn't like swimming. Yeah, I'm not thinking of anything. Anyway, I can appreciate, especially for anyone coming from a World of Warcraft background or any other games that do allow more underwater freedom of movement, coming to a game like LOTRO or even like Valheim and just being kind of restricted to the top layer of the water can be a little bit like, well, but I liked underwater swimming. But yeah, that's the current state of the game, and to my knowledge, it is not changing. Bim says, Guild Wars 2 does great on that. I popped into a Guild Wars. I don't remember if it was one or two long ago, but it didn't stick, so I can't speak on that. Ryben says, do I have an opinion on Amazon's Lord of the Rings MMO, which is maybe coming? I don't have any opinions on it. My first thought is this is, attempt number 2 of them to put together an MMO. And I think the strength of an MMO, there's certainly things that they can do, kind of starting from fresh, that might be harder with an older system. But MMOs are glorified muds and mushes, right? They're a way to get a lot of text into your brain, and also there is hopefully fun and engaging combat and gameplay mechanics. But there's a lot of reading and interacting with quest givers, and there's just a lot of work to do to bootstrap a functioning MMO that is not game mechanics. The game can be super fun to play and super boring to play if the quests are not engaging, if the quest text isn't engaging, if the NPCs aren't fun. So beyond the difficulty of creating an MMO that is fun to play, they also have the difficulty of creating a world that is fun to be in. And they are potentially in competition with LOTRO. Certainly they would both be Lord of the Rings themed MMOs, but the world of Middle-earth is big enough for more than one MMO, I think. But you have a challenge of how do you frame your experience of the world of Middle-earth. And Lord of the Rings, I think, has done a pretty reasonable thing of saying, okay, you're obviously not one of the nine. You're not part of the Fellowship, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that's not the Fellowship. The Fellowship isn't even the Fellowship for very long, right? It splinters. And so the book constantly makes reference when they're, maybe not relaxing, when they're in Rivendell with Frodo recovering, they're talking about people going out and looking for traces of the Black Riders, and I think it's great that we get to be a part of that, which is referenced in the book. Like, we get to be those people who Frodo's convalescing, and we get to hunt down the Black Riders in the Trollshaws. So there's a way to be a part of the story without, like, being one of the members of the Fellowship. And I think they've done a really good job walking that line of, we're in the world of Middle-earth, we're in the story of the Lord of the Rings, but in a way that doesn't break the story. You know, we're not Gandalf, right? But we are making our own contributions to the story on the edges. And so that framing of it, I think, is really fun. And Amazon will have to figure out their own framing of how to get into the world of Middle-earth. But the one interview or excerpts of that I read before I kind of lost interest in it, in following it, was with one of the, I don't know, executive producers or something, basically saying if there's a conflict between gameplay mechanics and story, we're gonna make the game fun. We're maybe not going to worry so much about the story. I'm paraphrasing heavily. I don't remember the exact words, but it was definitely one of those. But the story's the point. Like, why are you licensing Lord of the Rings if you're not going to put that front and center? So what someone says 2 years before a game releases doesn't necessarily color at all what the game actually ends up being. So I'm certainly not going to judge them based on that one statement, but it definitely gave me pause, like, that's certainly a way to approach Lord of the Rings and the world of Middle-earth, but it wasn't something that was meant to appeal to me. It was something that meant to appeal to maybe someone who is looking at the gaming side of things and not necessarily the world side of things. I don't know. So they have a lot of uphill battle. They have to make an MMO, which is not an easy thing to do. They have to fill the world, because you can have a fun gameplay, but you can have an empty world. And MMOs have this problem a lot, where they you need to release and start getting people to play. But if you look at, for instance, early World of Warcraft, you had regions that had almost no development, and the regions that were developed more early definitely felt more refined than some of the ones that were introduced like right before they released, and then were kind of polished up after release. And so you could definitely have an experience where an Amazon MMO launches and it's super fun to play, but then you run into the next area and it's empty because they haven't filled it out yet. So they've got to bootstrap an MMO and all the content and make it a large enough world to make it fun to be in. And all of that while they have an obvious competitor who's also doing a LOTRO MMO, but which has 15 years of development. Like, that's an amazing challenge. And it's not to say they don't have the ability to rise to that challenge, but it's challenge mode, to be sure. So we'll see. I'm certainly not opposed to there being more than one MMO. I think that the world of Middle-earth is big enough for it. But Amazon's first attempt didn't get very far. We'll see how far this one. It would not be unusual, perhaps, in this day and age, for the project to get partway through and then them decide, oh, this isn't going to work after all. So we'll see. You know, I know very little, Ryben, about New World. I heard a little bit about it months ago, and it didn't stick. I'd never played it. I have no idea. Ryben says, I love LOTRO, but I wish there was something that tells you where you should level. The map is kind of confusing. I do have a link for you that I save under my LOTRO Maps folder that I highly recommend. Let me pull that up. This is a map over on Reddit. And of course, we're well past update 32, but these things don't make themselves, so it's pretty neat. And what it is just a visual representation of how the different maps connect together in the world of Middle Earth of Lord of the Rings Online, and the level ranges of those areas. The game, I don't know if streamlining is the right word. It feels to me like if you are following the epic quest line from levels 1 to 50, you will bounce around to the various places that are approximately designed for you. But there's more back and forthing than you might expect for a game that's trying to onboard you to the experience. Like, you can definitely be in the Shire in the Breeland, and then you can go to the Lone Lands, but your leveling range for the Lone Lands and the North Downs overlaps heavily. And then where do you go after that? I find this map a useful way to visualize these things. When we can see, oh, okay, North Downs is 24 to 32, and Avondale is 30 to 40, and then, oh, Angmar is 40 to 50, but Forhell is 44 to 50, and, oh, Trollshaw that's 35 to 40, and Misty Mountains is 40 to 45. Oh, okay. But when in doubt, oh, hey, Igraf says, there is a Where to Play plugin. I haven't used it myself, but many talk well of it. Awesome. Well, I'm curious. In Where to Play, let's take a look. Oh, homeopathics. All right, they do a lot of French stuff. They're a French language developer, and they put out a lot of interesting looking things. So we're going to go ahead and load that up. We are not. Yes, I need the turbine files. Turbine. Awesome. Okay. Cool. So, Where to Play? After level 100. And we can see it is highlighting in green things and stuff and things. Oh, cool. And if you click on it, you get a map. Oh, that's funny. I think they have a singleton to that map, and when you click on it, they reassign it, and the old one gets cleaned up, maybe? Easy thing to do. Well, that's really cool. So there you go. That's the thing that you could try, is the Where to Play plugin. Show, hide, escape, activate, deactivate, escape key, display the options. All right, /WTP options. Show material farming tier. Sure. Okay. So there's just a little bag here with a number on it. So if you're in Angmar, you're looking at Master. If you're in the Wildwood, you're looking at Supreme? Really? No. That doesn't sound right. Arakian, it is true that you can get Khazad Skarn in southern Arakian, but that should really be 5 to 6. That's an incomplete listing. Oh, Little Redhead says that those are the old maps, I believe. Well, I don't know. Breeland, kind of. I've lost track of which one's which. I would say those look like the current maps to me. Yeah, that's definitely the new Lowlands map. I am not sure I believe that. Do asks, are you self-taught or did you learn to code from college? I'm still learning, but I notice I do I do better coding when I do it in my free time and self-teaching compared to my college classes where it's very formal and strict. I went to college for computer science, and computer science does have some programming courses. I should say, computer science has some courses in which you learn basic programming techniques. And there are definitely some programming adjacent courses that focus on algorithms and data structures where your assignments, at least at my school, required you to implement these algorithms or data structures and/or in some code. But they weren't necessarily very strict at my school about, oh, you must do this in this particular language. It was really like, do you understand the concepts that we are trying to impart on you? I actually did a programming course in high school that let me test out of like the intro to programming in college. So it's possible if I hadn't done that, I would have had to do more in college. Yeah, I would say the majority of the courses were less about how do you write a program and more about, yeah, how do you do it, not in the terms of syntax and grammar, but higher level concepts, data, algorithms, data structures, analysis, things like that. But you do make me curious about going back to my transcript and kind of identifying which of those courses actually feel more like programming and which feel more like theory. Like, do I use what I learned in my automata class on a day-to-day in my work? Maybe not, but just like anything that you learn, when you learn things, you're changing the structure of your brain, and in general, that's probably useful, even if you don't actively use a specific thing in a particular day. Okay, I do like that it has the level range in the bottom of the map here. 20 to 25, North Downs. I like that. I like that they've highlighted that. Okay, oh, and it's in the title bar. Cool. Arvin says I'm level 49 and I'm at book 12. Awesome. So, if you're following the epic book, there we go. If you're following the epic book, then it's going to take you to places that will have other landscape. And especially as you go on through Mines of Moria and beyond, in general, I would recommend, if you have an epic quest and you have nothing else, take the epic quest until it takes you to some place where there are quest rings, and then do all the quests in that area until there are no more quests to do. And then oftentimes there's a vector. Hey, thanks for helping us here. You might check out this other place. And if you go there, eventually, following those vectors, you will sync back up with the epic quest. At which point, you can do them kind of in parallel with the local stuff. And at some point, the epic quest is going to skip way ahead, because the epic quest is kind of like a sampler. Just like you taste a little bit of a region and then you move on. You do a little bit here, you move on. You do 3 or 4 quests here and you move on. Now, it stalls, I don't know if stalls out is the right word. It spends a lot of time in Angmar. It spends a lot of time going through the story of the Shadow of Angmar. But as you move on past that, the epic story kind of moves you along much faster than the pace of landscape. So if you're looking to just experience a little bit of everything, just do the epic line and maybe a few quests here and there, but just do the epic that takes you from place to place. If you're looking to kind of maximize your gameplay and do all of the things, sort of a completionist style, then yeah, the epic storyline is a great way to be like, where do I go now if you're not sure where else to go? But once you get to a place, you can do a deep experience of that if you kind of set the epic aside and do all the local quests. And eventually you're going to meet back up with that epic, especially later on, as that process feels like it kind of gelled together. It feels like you have to work a little bit harder to make them merge earlier on in the game, in the Shadows of Angmar, than you do later on. So, right, but I don't know if that helps, but that's sort of my approach to it. If I'm trying to do everything, the epic takes me to a place, I do all the stuff, that place sends me somewhere else, and eventually meet back up with the epic and continue. Do ask, when did you feel comfortable enough to apply to entry-level programming jobs? I notice most interviews I do, they want me to know all languages perfectly and have years of professional experience. Any tips for entry coders? I can't do free internships, sadly, due to bills. Well, I would guess that the job market is different now than when I graduated college in the early 2000s. So I don't know how much advice I can give, because I effectively went to a a career presentation on campus at my university, and was like, "Oh, that sounds neat." And I applied and was fortunate enough to get in, and that served as the bootstrapping for future changes in my career. So it wasn't a free internship by any chance. It didn't pay a whole lot, but it was a chance to kind of get in. And it wasn't even a programming position, as it turns out. They needed me to do other things. But I got to do things that they were asking for and also be like, hey, what if we did this other thing? And throw together some code. And at some point, someone was like, hey, you know how to code a little bit and you have some free time in your schedule. Can you help me with this thing? And I was able to do that. And so... yeah, my first like official job out of college wasn't actually a coding job. It was other things that was coding adjacent, and then bouncing around after that. That first job was definitely useful. Of being like, hey, I was gainfully employed at this place that you might have heard of. How about you hire me? I don't know that that's a useful thing, suggestion anymore. I would be very worried if I had to start from scratch in today's job market. So, good luck. Raven says, I'm a dwarf. Are there storylines for my levels in Moria I can do later? And are there quests until you reach level 150? Every class has some class-specific quest chain, 3 or 4 quests long, that happens in Moria. But to my knowledge, there are no race-specific quests in Moria. What tends to happen in the game is it will key off of your race for subtler things in quest dialogues. Sometimes you'll be talking to a dwarf, and if you are a dwarf, they'll be a lot more inclusive. Like, we're working to take back the mine, and that includes you, or something. Or there'll be separate special dialogue. If you're a hobbit and you go to the area in Edidvaith, is it Edidvaith? Yes, maybe. Where are the other hobbits? Anyway, there's some outlying hobbits, and if you are a hobbit, they will have subtly different quests or quest text for you than otherwise. But in general, most of the time, you're doing the same quest side by side. So you might see some changes in quest text based off of your race or class, but you will generally see the same quests as other people. Like I said, there's some class-specific things, and these were more of sort of a... these were a way to get class trait points before they revamped that a while back. And so they are kind of an optional thing to do nowadays because the reward is, the class traits aren't done that way anymore. Yeah, Raven, I haven't actually played a dwarf in Moria, so I could be wrong, but that is my understanding. Crick says, good evening. Hello. Urban says introduction. Yeah, that's true. Every class is funneled towards a every race is funneled toward a specific introduction. Elves and dwarves are going to be in Ered Luin, doing a combined storyline until they split back out, and dwarves go start at Thorn's Hall, and elves in Kellendim. Humans, Bjornings, hobbits end up in Archet outside of Bree. That's very true. I was thinking after the introduction, when you start on the main epic storyline, it kind of unifies back together. And yes, absolutely, there are quests in the game through level 150. When they upped the level from 140 to 150, that was with the King's Gondor and Umbar expansions to the world, which are not on this map because this is well before that. So King's Gondor I haven't played around with it at all, but it definitely takes place in Gondor. And then Umbar is now a place that can be reached. And so some of the leveling that you'll do between 140 and 150 will probably take place in and around Umbar Bar Habel, which you can go to the city of Umbar Bar Habel even at a lower level, you won't die or anything right away. But then you'll be able to go to the Shield Isles and quest there, in addition to King's Gondor, which is... I get the impression it's kind of a revisiting of the lands, but after the war, but I haven't played through it at all, so I have no real information. Robin says, awesome, plenty to play. Absolutely. If you attempted to do all of the quests and all of the deeds in the game, you would stay busy for quite a while. Crick says, sounds good. Awesome. Okay, so we have experienced a problem where we attempted to remove money from the wallet tooltip and got an error. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, money is not on the tooltip. We're going to go ahead and put it in the tooltip. Great. If we take it out of the tooltip right away, that's okay. So there was something about something not being loaded properly. If it's in the tooltip and needs to go onto the bar. So, fair enough. Let's take a look at that. So money goes back onto TitanBar, save, error. Okay. So that gives us the error message that we have here. Does it happen for non-money things? Money is a special thing. So let's, and so is Destiny for that matter. Let's go ahead and say put Yule Festival token in the tooltip. We can see it's there. And we're going to go ahead and unload and reload TitanBar. Okay, it's there. Let's go ahead and try to move the Yule Festival token onto the TitanBar and save. And that does work. Perfect. So this might be a money-specific thing. What about Destiny? Well, what are our exceptions here? Wallet controls... Money is an exception, LOTRO points is an exception, but Destiny points is not. So let's go ahead and add LOTRO points to the tooltip. You can see it there. And then we're going to go ahead and unload and reload and start taking these off. Rabin wonders, are there skill rotations like in World of Warcraft so you get max DPS? I think that is a question I cannot fully answer because I almost exclusively play Minstrel. But I can definitely say on Minstrel, there are patterns of play that will help you get the most out of your DPS, and patterns of play that will not help you get the most out of your DPS. And so if you play the Minstrel kind of the way it's meant to be played, at least in my mind, you're definitely going to get higher DPS, and so there's probably a point at which you max out your DPS for any given set of equipment and traits and virtues and that sort of thing. So for instance, the Minstrel, if you are in DPS form, has an effect called War Speech. No, Discordant Ballads, which gives you a tactical buff, I think called War Speech, which says all ballads give you a short plus 5% tactical damage buff, which means, and this stacks up to 3 times and only lasts for 8 seconds. So if you have them all active, then when you're doing tactical damage, you're having plus 15% on your tactical damage. And so, in theory, a way to optimize your damage would include having this plus 15%. And if that is true, then there's a feeling of an ebb and flow when you're fighting as a minstrel, where you do a ballad, and then you do something else, like one of your big AoE abilities, like a Call of Arome, and then you do a ballad, and then you do Cry of the Valar, and then you do a ballad, and then you do Cry of the Wizards, and you're kind of bouncing back and forth between this ballad because you need to do it every other skill in order to keep your war speech up with Discordant Ballads, but you're also doing it because when you do those, it decreases the cooldown on these big skills, and when you do the big skills, they have 15-20 second cooldown, but every time you do a ballad, it decreases these cooldowns. So the game's encouraging you to have this ebb and flow of ballad, not ballad, ballad, not ballad. And I would expect that a way to maximize damage with a minstrel is probably going to play into that playstyle. Marvin says, I'm Guardian, if you couldn't tell. Stylar, Redline Mini against structures in timed missions, what to use? First of all, what I say is probably going to be more anecdote than data-driven, because I don't do a lot of playing around with Combat Analyzer or anything like that. But first of all, if you're a Redline Minstrel and you're going to be fighting something for more than a couple seconds, go ahead and make sure you throw that Timeless Echoes of Battle on it. The decrease to the cry and resist rating is going to make everything else hit it just that much harder. It's going to be doing a little bit of damage to it as well, but the main thing that you want is that resist rating decrease so that everything else hits more easily. It's a structure, so it doesn't matter if you're using single target or area effect. And so something I like to do is make sure that you're hitting your Call to Fate and Dissonant Piercing Cry as often as you can. And Dissonant Piercing Cry is an immediate skill, so if you kind of if you place them together and just kind of roll your fingers together, so for me it's Control 2, Control 3. So if I roll that 2 and 3, you activate the Call to Fate, and then the Dissonant Piercing Cry will just happen right away. There's no delay between the two skills. But beyond that, yeah. I'm thinking of some of the Swanfleet and Cardelon specific missions where you're like running up the stairs and you're trying to beat down these gates while other things are also trying to attack you, which is super annoying. But I don't think those are timed, so I don't think I'm thinking of the missions that you are. Are those good and bad missions, or which ones are you thinking of? So I play a lot of Minstrel. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily good at the Minstrel. I think I am, but I haven't tried to compare myself against people who actually spend a lot of time thinking about how to maximize DPS. So when you're fighting against more than one opponent, you've got these four area effect skills that are just ones I love to use because I love the idea of hitting more than one thing at a time. As long as you can manage your aggro, it's great. But these all have reasonable cooldowns. What do we have? Cooldown 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. So your Call of Arome is going to be available more frequently than the others. But if you're kiting things around, you want to make sure that Cry of the Wizards is on them as often as you can, because it's going to be giving them a... Slow down. I'm sorry, did I say... Oh yeah, there it is. The target's movement speed is slowed down by 30%. So if you pop your Cry of the Wizards on them, it's not going to last forever, but they're going to be slowed down for 15 seconds, and that makes it much easier to kite them around. Marvin says, I'm so casual, so I just end up smashing my buttons. I've played a little bit of Guardian, and the trick for Guardians is to make sure that you're unlocking your higher... I don't know if tier is the right word. There are a number of skills for Guardians that are locked behind parry and block reactions. So when you do a block, you unlock certain abilities. And some of those abilities will be tiered to other abilities. And my most experience with Guardians is as a tank. So you do a block ability. Cool, you unlocked this. If you do this one, you unlock the next thing in that change. If you do that, you unlock one or two other things, and you get to choose which of those you want to do based off of maybe more defense or more attack. So being mindful of how those chains work. And one thing I'll do with that is make sure that those chains are kind of flowing out left to right on my toolbars so I can visualize that. So you'll have chains that are based off of your parry, having done a successful parry. You'll have chains that are based off of a successful block. You'll also have abilities that force those to unlock, that will give you your parry or block effects for a short amount of time. Okay, Charlotte says the boulders in Gundabad specifically. Okay, I haven't done a lot of Gundabad missions, so that explains it. So Rebin, that's where I'm coming from as a Guardian, is I'm thinking, okay, I have some basic abilities for attacking, for placing a bleed on them, for increasing my own defense, and I also have these chains that I can unlock either by forcing a block or parry, but those have a cooldown to them, or actually just having a block and parry. So optimally, I'm going to get my block and parry as high as I can to trigger those reactions, and then I'm going to use them as effectively as I can. So once I've unlocked them, I'm going to be going through those chains to do better and better effects. But my Guardian is a year out of date, my Guardian knowledge, because I've just haven't been playing them as much as my Minstrel. So it kind of ends there. But good luck. There's a website, LOTRO HQ, that had useful information about how to play classes at some point. I don't know if they're still up to date, but maybe check them out and see if you can get inspired. Do asks, do you think if you can make a pre-recorder plugin coding class for LOTRO? I'm not sure what you're asking there, Do. Are you asking about a plugin that can replay commands like I want to do this skill and then this skill and then this skill? If so, there is a plugin that does something similar, but it does require you to be clicking on abilities. I don't actually remember. It was a Thurlore plugin, I think. So, LOTRO interface. Sequence bars. Thank you, Edgar Arthur. So, I don't know, but I think you might be talking about something like sequence bars, which lets you set up, these are the things that I want to show up, and when you click the icon in the plugin, it advances to the next thing in the sequence that you defined. But plugins have a limitation that they cannot activate skills on your behalf. You always have to click something to make it happen. So here's a visual example of what's going on. Where you click the thing and the bar slides underneath where you are so that the next thing is ready for you to click, and then the next thing. So if you want to have a predefined setup that is like, oh, I want to do this and then this and this and this and this and this without working too hard at it, you can set that up in sequence bars, and then sequence bars will scroll those icons underneath your cursor so that you can just click, 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 click. However, plugins, with a few exceptions, can't do much with keyboard input, and you can't activate skills with a keyboard input with a plugin. So this is all going to be mouse driven. So I'm not sure if that's what you were talking about, but definitely check out sequence bars if that is anything similar to what you were looking for. Okay, let's go look at wallet controls money.lua and see if we can figure out what's going on. Wallet controls money.lua, and this is going to be line number 5. Okay, and this is a place where we say table index is nil. Okay. I don't think that's true. So we're trying to import wallet controls money. Where are we trying to do that? TitanBar's functions CTR. We're importing that. Okay. So what I want to do is go ahead and say turbine.shell.writeLine, and we're going to write out loading money.lua. And I want to see that because I want to just convince myself that this is actually happening normally. So we're going to go ahead and unload TitanBar, bring it back in. We can see loading money.lua. So in that case, it works. And in fact, let's write out a stack trace. Turbine.shell.writeLine. And this is going to be turbine.engine.get call stack. Great. So we can see we are in functions CTR. Okay, I'm actually going to call, copy this. Loading money works from here. Nope. There we go. And let's see what the call stack is when it doesn't work. So for that, we're going to go ahead and put the money in the tooltip, unload and reload TitanBar. Cool. And then we're going to go ahead and say on TitanBar. And let's see what's different here. Loading money fails here. That feels strange. So the one thing I noticed is that we're starting in something that is in TitanBar / control. So we're starting in a place that conceivably is a different part of the namespace, or what I call the namespace in Lua. But obviously it's able to find the show high currency function in functions menu, which is able to find the import control function in functions CTR. At that point, let's go ahead and turbine.shell.writeline in money.lua variable money is, and we're going to go ahead and dump that out because I want to see what's going on. Okay, so coming on in here, money on toolbar. Oh, attempt to call global dump, a nil value. Interesting. Okay. Tell you what, I don't want to deal with that at the moment, so let's go ahead and just make a dump. Okay. So, on toolbar, save. Cool, money is nil. But we already knew we had a problem because we were missing that dump. What's going on? What if we force it with the global? This is a place where not really having a firm grasp on how what I'm calling the namespace works is probably hindering me. Okay, but we did see that money was nil here, and that's fair, but that is defined in settings. So I think I would like to look at the Here Be Dragons plugin a little bit, I think. So we're going to go ahead and open up the plugin compendium and search for dragons. Here Be Dragons. We're going to go ahead and add that. And Here Be Dragons, if you just load it, it will show you what's going on in memory. Here's the global, here's everything else. And what I'm interested in is, oops, I did accidentally ask for you. What I'm interested in is seeing the state of memory within TitanBar. So for that, we're going to come on in and take a look at how do we do that, because I can never remember. So we're going to come into Here Be Dragons. Here Be Dragons opens up Equindel Lua Explorer main. Okay. And for that, we make a browser. We add whatever we're trying to look at. Cool. I could actually go look at the page and see if they have anything else that they want to say. Dragons. Okay. Here we dragons. In order to use the browser in your code, you have to import the following package somewhere in your project. Let's do it. Okay, so the problem we're seeing this is in money. So we're going to go ahead and import this. Then you can call this, and it will create a new top-level node called name that will let you inspect. Awesome. What's going on? Question mark. Okay, so I actually want G, I think. All right, let's see if that was sufficient by coming into TitanBar and loading that. Attempt to call field event. I always have to remind myself how to do this. Okay, so Lua Explorer, browser, 34, Equindel utilities event. Okay, default browser, import browser, yeah. Equindel utils event. Well, I gotta say, I don't understand why it doesn't include that. Import equindel.utils.event. Attempt to compare number with string. Well, that's different. Casper the cat is visible on the couch behind me. Hello, Casper the cat. Right there. He's been bouncing around on couches today. All right. Well, thank you for letting me know. Taladar asks, just tried to re-download the game after a break. Anyone know why I would keep getting a corrupt DAT file error? I recently reinstalled on an old laptop that I think I was actually having Wi-Fi issues, and I got impatient in the middle of an update, and it's like, close out of the launcher, and then I tried launching again, and it didn't work. So I just like, start over, blow it all away. So I do not know why you would get that. Are you getting that during installation, during patching, or after the patch when you attempt to start? One thing I would say is that in the launcher, there is an option under this little caret menu here. So if you can get this far and go to options, there is a repair game data option. You can click that. Don't recommend clicking that while you're playing the game. And I think repair in this sense might just be blow it away and force the launcher to re-download DAT files, but it might be more sophisticated than that. So that would be the first thing I would suggest is if you can get this far in the launcher, go to your caret menu options and try the repair game data option, which I'm not going to try it right now because I don't want to break myself. But if it doesn't exit out of the launcher, do that. And then the launcher should just start re-downloading DAT files to replace whatever it needs to. Okay, so you can get to the launcher. You're going to give it a shot. Awesome. I was going to say, I had a problem where I wasn't getting this far in the launcher, and that caused me to get impatient with the whole process. Once you're here, the launcher, assuming your internet connection is pretty stable, the launcher does a pretty good job of just downloading all the files it needs and applying them as it downloads them. So once you get to this screen, it thinks it's done. So if you have a corrupted DAT, just repair, and hopefully it does better this time. There's a lot of data when it downloads. We're talking gigabytes. So if a few bits get misstored somewhere, things go wonky. Okay, we're going to pull this out of money because I think we're suffering the same problem that we were before. And we're going to go ahead and just import this here and see what we see right away. Okay, so we are able to get the Lua Explorer running here. Awesome. So if we go from there to money, and in fact, at that point, we probably didn't need that change there. Let's go ahead and reload. Ryben says, "You can't imagine my first adventure in Goblin Town." I was like, "What? Where? What's happening?" If you haven't seen it, there's a fantastic map for Goblin Town. Let me see if I can find that for you. There are probably numerous maps for Goblin Town, but the one I particularly like, I'm going to pull up here. I also found this on Reddit. Unfortunately, I don't have the post. I just have the link to the image. But this is more of an abstract image. It doesn't show you the rooms that you're in so much as the paths through the rooms. Like, this is a large rectangular room here in the middle, but it's just showing you can be down below, you can be up top, and so you kind of have to place this pathing on top of where you are. But once you do that, Goblin Town map. Once you're able to do that, I find this an incredibly useful way for navigating through. Goblin Town is divided into lower, middle, and upper. And so this is the lower area. Once you go into the blue area, you're in middle. And if you continue north, you are in upper. Teledar says that one was a lifesaver. If you mean this Goblin Town map, yeah, I pull it up every time I'm in Goblin Town, and I can do it kind of by memory, especially if it's been kind of recent. But there's just enough twisting and turning, especially when you get into some of the places you don't go very often. Like, I go to war settings once every year or so, and so war settings I don't know very well. But the path to and from the slave pens, you do that so often because there's a quest NPC in the slave pens that you've got, well, two really, that you've got to go back and forth between Ogluk and Agos that are marked here. And so, yeah, the path from the mountain's throat to the slave pens is ingrained in my head. What you do in the war settings, whatever. Thundergrot, yeah, not really. I just know I jump off the stairs and I fall to the bottom, and then I get the hunter with me to return me to the camp outside the mountain throat, because I'm done. That's pretty much it. But highly recommended this, or there are other maps out there for Goblin Town, but this is my personal favorite. Valkyrie says, "Just save that for my next year to go there." Awesome. Yeah, it has a nice annotation, thebrass.com. I feel like I've tried to find the map there and have failed, but as long as this link works, it's good. Yeah, Valkyrie says, "Last time I'd get so frustrated. I get it. It's a maze of twisty passages all like, but once you can see kind of the high level view of what's going on, it feels more understandable to me. You do want to pay attention to where paths are crossing over other paths. They're trying to represent that 3D topography using this. So in this section, for instance, I would like to blow that up even more. Really? Yeah. I know I'm misspelling it in my haste. So in this section right here, you can see what they're trying to represent is this path is above. Wow, that is too thick. So this path is above up here, and then this area down here is below. And you can expect that this is a ramp that's going to connect from down there up to where it will connect up here. So they're going to show you how to get it. Like if you fall down, they're going to be showing you a way back up. But it might be kind of small details. And then, let's see. Yeah, any of these red arrows here, oops, these are those doors that open up to let you proceed between the different sections. Robin says, I went there without a map and left the place after reaching the middle. Yeah, I get it. You don't have to use a map like this. There are certainly people who enjoy that challenge of, I don't know what's going on or where I am or what's going, how to do this. But I appreciate the reference. I've done it without a map. I've done it with a map. I appreciate the map. If you're looking for the Bilbo's buttons, there are 5 of them that are specifically located, although I think they've misnamed 2 of them on here. So like the very first one, if you go right along the upper ledge here, you're going to find a button there. But 3 of them are just random drops, so you just have to keep defeating goblins and other ilk here, and eventually you find them. Taladard says, I went there first time, got lost, and then found this and made my way back to the entrance. Excellent. I'm running around in-game with Little Redhead. Little Redhead loves playing hunters, and there is a campsite fire just outside the Mountain's Throat entrance here at Glaine's forward camp. And hunters can return to their party to the campsite fire. So it's incredibly streamlines the process of going in, completing quests, getting to the point where it's like, okay, it's time to talk to Glenn. Great. Zoop. Teleport back out, talk to Glenn, run back in, and repeat. And having that ability to shortcut the running out and only be running in one direction, I feel like has really helped cement, as long as I am only going in one direction, coming from the entrance and going to a specific point. I don't have to memorize the path in both directions. I just know that if I'm at the throat, here's how I go forward. If you're not running with a hunter, you maybe just have to learn both ways, or just set a mile to Vindahar. It's not that far to run down the hill. Vindahar is Eriador, Misty Mountains. Vindahar, actually, I'm saying Vindahar, but I'm thinking maybe even Hrimbarg, if there is one. Hang on. Clear all, show me milestones. Okay, yeah, there is a milestone at Vinderhall, and it's really maybe 30 seconds run down the hill to get to the Mountain's Throat. Maybe 60 seconds. I don't know. If you're mounted and you ignore all the mobs, it's not that far. And so especially if you have your milestone cooldowns where it's less than an hour cooldown, well worth it. Okay. What I am seeing here is that I think that there's something going on with namespaces that I don't understand, and it is causing problems. I thought I saved that. Yeah, Teledhar agrees that hill run with a mount is a quick shot. Revan says, when do you think people reach level 150 if they play 8 hours a day? I did an experiment once where I ran a character through the first 60 levels or so, maybe even the first 70 levels, not using any experience accelerator, which you can get from some expansions. So do I have one of those on? Yeah. So if you have some levels of some of the expansions, you might have an experience accelerator like this, Fleet Merchant's Earring. Plus 25% experience from monster kills, crafting, and quest completions. And it is possible to equip 2 of these to have plus 50% experience. And if you are on a legendary server like Treebeard, you actually have a decrease in experience. So if you're playing on Treebeard, you're earning 40% of experience from normal. So with the caveats that I was doing this on a not Treebeard server without those earrings, I think. And after 60 levels or so, I was averaging about 1 level an hour. However, the first umpteen levels feel like they go a lot faster. Like, it definitely feels like you're slowing down as you go. Oh, you're on Laurelin. Awesome. That's a great server. So I also felt like I wasn't being as efficient as I could, and I wasn't spending any Destiny. So if you haven't seen it, Destiny is available. Maybe it's a VIP thing. I don't know. But Destiny, you can grant yourself accelerated experience. It's just the blue bar, the same thing as you get if you are a subscriber. At 3 a.m., you get a blue bar worth 30% of the experience bar. And so you can buy effectively one of those a day, or they refill once a day, but they have a kind of a battery of 5 uses. So you can spend 5 of them, which is worth 1.5 levels of blue bar, and then they regenerate once every day, and so every day you could add an extra 0.3 bars. But if you're playing 8 hours a day, this is a tiny amount of experience. And so there are things you can do like missions, which are always on levels. So they're always the same level as you. So they're going to be proportionally pretty good experience versus something like if you're playing a quest that's 5 or 10 levels below you, it's going to be way less experience than an on-level quest, in my experience. I haven't done a lot of questing at level 140, but that's my understanding. Raven says, I didn't know about Destiny. Okay, your wallet icon is in the upper right. I think there's also a keyboard shortcut. For me, it is, I think, X. But that's not where X is on a QWERTY keyboard. I don't know. You'll have to double check your keyboard shortcuts. Oh, okay. Egroth says anyone can earn them, but only VIP or subscribers can spend them. Great. So once you're in your wallet, at the bottom there is a perks button that will bring up your perks. The 2 I find most useful are the enhanced XP if I'm trying to earn experience, and the run speed if you just want to be running around a little bit faster. It's plus 5%, and it's pretty cheap. But there are some other ones as well. Could do hope. Plus 1 hope for an hour for only 1,000 Destiny. That does not feel like a good use of Destiny. Was there anything else in here that I liked? Nothing else really feels proportionally worthwhile compared to it, although I'm sitting with 220,000 Destiny, so what do I know? But the enhanced XP is where I would spend most of it if I were spending it. So, poke around in there, you may find things that you really like. You earn Destiny automatically whenever you level, and that may be it. So if you have a lot of characters on a server like I do, you just kind of accumulate. Oh, anyway, so if it were 1 hour per level, the whole way from 1 to 150, then that would be 150 hours or 18 to 19 days of play. But I suspect that it is kind of a logarithmic thing where the higher you are, the less, the more time it takes, the less you are getting per quest proportional to your level. So I'm guessing that is a absolute minimum, and the real number is higher than that. But I haven't gone beyond level 70 or so. I ran out of time in real life, so I couldn't just push at it. And if I were really trying to level up quickly, I would be equipping any of these XP boosters that I might have. But that's going to be variable based off of what expansions you purchase, whether you have those available to you. Okay. Renkorko says they think it's 1 hour per level if you're focused on leveling. If you fool around, it's like 1 level per 3 to 5 hours. And it's certainly true. If you're paying attention to crafting, if you're gathering resources while you're out, every time you pause to stop to gather resources, you're not defeating mobs or completing quests, and that's going to slow you down. My one character that I was speeding through, that character had no professions. So I couldn't even be distracted by icons on my radar. Absolutely nothing. But that feels like a struggle to run through the landscape and see these perfectly good resources that I can't stop to pick up because that would slow down my levels per hour metric. So it was a little depressing. Rabin says, just one character. When I started out in Lorelyn, had some server issues, kind of slowed my progress. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I know they've definitely been working on that. All I'm missing are Corsair of Umbar and Fate of Gumbad. Okay. If you have previous expansions and if you've received some of the jewelry from that, let's see, what do we have? Earring of the Dead City has that effect. Fateful Gundabad Earring has that effect. The Focused Earring of the High Elves has that effect. And of course the Fleet Merchant's Earring has that. And there might be some other ones. Those are the ones that I have. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 earrings, of which you can only have 2. They do have different maximum levels for their for when the effect caps out. For instance, this one gives 25% to all forms of XP until level 140, whereas the Earring of the Dead City caps out at level 120, Gundabad at 130, and the Focused Earring of the High Elves at 105. So that one definitely is about to phase out here on Treebeard, where the server cap is 100. Rabbit says, I don't have those. I suspect they don't come from the basic version of the expansions. I have a habit of just getting the full version, whatever it is, because I'm lucky enough to have a little disposable income, and I like throwing money in the direction of SSG because they make a thing that I enjoy playing. And so, yeah, that's why I made the race through it all character without those things, because not everyone is in the position to be able to get those earrings. And so it was just what is it, if you don't use any XP acceleration whatsoever, what does it feel like? And that's what I came up with. It was about 1 hour per level if you know what you're doing. Cool. Thanks, Renkoko, for kind of confirming my not very scientific experiment. There's definitely... Rabin says, I enjoy playing. I'm just unemployed and in rehabilitation work. Totally understand. LOTRO is a game that you can play free-to-play for an incredibly long time. And there's some people who enjoy kind of the challenge of purchasing content with just LOTRO points that they've earned in-game without resorting to any money. One of the things that the D-Tracker plugin will show you, we referenced this earlier. I think I just closed the window instead of opening it. There we go. One of the things the D-Tracker plugin will show you... I deleted it. Let's go add that back in with the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. D-Tracker. Cool. Where is it? Green arrow, D-Tracker, load. Awesome. So one of the things D-Tracker will show you is how many LOTRO points are available in a region based off of the number of deeds you have not yet completed. So for instance, if I complete all of the deeds in Eastern Gondor, I will earn 135 LOTRO points. This would be more clear in Breland if I had uncompleted some stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. Deeds of Breland. All the Deeds of Breland, if you complete them, are worth 200 LOTRO points. And so there are some people who will go ahead and create characters, play through the early game, which is an enjoyable experience, get those LOTRO points, which apply to your entire account, not just to that character, and then they'll just delete the character and make a new one and do that. And that way they can enjoy part of the game, but also get some LOTRO points faster to unlock other parts of the game. I don't have it in me to delete a character. it's it's not really where my mind goes, so I wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, I would just fill up my number of character slots and be like, oh, I guess that's as far as I'm going. But for some people, I think the delete button's a little bit easier to press. Okay, we have reached a problem that I think is being caused by the folder structure that I've attempted to employ and my misunderstanding of how namespaces work in Lua in Lord of the Rings Online. Because when we are calling from the main.lua, FRM main, things work. But when we start the call in a subdirectory, TitanBar control while controls wallet window, it doesn't work. There's something that's not resolving. Things that should be in the global namespace aren't in the global namespace. The dump function is not available. The money variable isn't available. And I think there's something wrong with my understanding of things. This is fixable, possibly. One thing I'm thinking of is sort of the trick of dispatching to a thread. If we had a control where we could say, hey, you are running in the right context, you take care of actually calling show hide currency instead of us doing it from here directly, that could be an approach. It would feel very clunky to do, but we could do it. So I think I'm going to have to think about this. And I think I don't have the time to think about this tonight. So, so let's go ahead and say this is about as far as we're going to get today. We've refreshed our memory. We're gonna plow forward on this. Worst case, we can just move things out of these subdirectories back into the main directory, and that would fix the problem. But I'd like to understand why the problem exists. So I'm going to be thinking about this a little bit. But I guess if you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns, now's a great time to get them into chat, as we're going to be drawing this stream to a close in the near future. When Corcoran says, also, reminder, don't farm, quote unquote, LOTRO points on legendary servers because XP gain is usually reduced by 25%. Do it on the free servers. LOTRO points are shared. Yeah, like I mentioned before, Treebeard, we're running at at only 40%, so minus 60% of experience from kills, crafting, quest completions, monsters. You can offset that a little bit if you're running also with landscape difficulty, which restores 20% experience gain on monster kills, and also gives you 5% virtue experience. But definitely, if you're just kind of farming LOTRO points, you go onto one of the servers that's not a legendary server. That way you don't have to pay for a subscription if you don't want. Although if you do pay for a subscription, I think you get 500 LOTRO points every month just from that. So you get a little something besides all the other things you get. But yeah, if you're money conscious, don't pay for and don't pay for a subscription, then you don't have to worry about the legendary server XP reduce. I didn't actually notice. Does Mordor and Angmar, do those have XP limiters as well? I didn't pay any attention while I was there. Alright, I'm pulling up a few links on Stack Overflow about how to load modules in different folders, and I'm going to read up on the implication of those things. Because I think this is definitely me misunderstanding Lua and not a the code is doing something wrong specifically, but I have told it to do something that is wrong. And that's the case of a lot of runtime errors. If it was a syntax error, the plugin just wouldn't load. But runtime errors are usually we have done something wrong in our code. We've expected something that doesn't happen, we expected data when we don't have something, or we expect the memory structure of the plugin to be what we think it is. Uncertain. Okay, well, I don't see anything else coming into chat, and I think it is time for us to come to a close. So, thank you all so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I do hope to see you here next week, where we will keep banging our heads against TitanBar, and until then, keep plugging along. Alright, bye-bye now.